Hey everybody, it's Kira and welcome back to my channel. So, it's been a minute. It's been a crazy semester. I have been taking 4 English classes and 1 religion class, with the majority of those being mostly online during a worldwide pandemic with a terrible and important election. So, yeah, it's been a time. So, because of all of that, and just because my reading just normally goes down during the semester anyways, I have only read 2 books in the last few months, so I'm going to talk about my recent reads. Now the semester is over, so I have more free time for the month of January, so I'm very excited to be able to hopefully read some books for fun. I will have end of the year stuff coming up probably once we actually hit January and the year finishes. I'll talk about how my reading went overall in the year of 2020. I think that's it. So without further ado, let's just get into my recent reads. So the first book that I read is Ray Bear by Jordan Ifueko. So I had never heard of this until I was at, oh shoot, I should have written this down. It was Y'all Fest, I think. Whatever writing festival that they did, or whatever book festival they did online during this spring, was when I first heard of this book. Jordan Ifueko was talking at one of the panels that I went to, and I had such a blast during that book festival. It was so much fun. It was the first one that I really gotten to be a part of in a way because it was held online, so I was able to attend a lot of the panels, which was super cool. But yeah, so she spoke at the panel and she pitched her book and explained kind of what her book was about, and I was like, I need to read this. So it came out, I think in September or something, and then I read it, I think over the period of a couple of weeks it took me to read, and I quite enjoyed it. The thing is, I don't remember a lot of the specific details of what happened in this book, but to give you a brief synopsis, well, it's kind of hard to give you a brief synopsis because this world is very intricate. So it's a fantasy, it's a YA fantasy, the first in a series, I assume. So our main character is named Tari Sai, and she has been kind of created by this woman, by her mother. She's a woman that's just known as the Lady, and she is given this command that Tari Sai needs to kill the prince, okay? And this is just a physical command that's binding over her body, she needs to do this. So then you have the prince, who's named Dio, and he is what's known as a Ray Bear. He can connect to the other people on his council through this thing called a Ray Bear, which basically means that they're all connected within their minds, and so you can telepathically talk to each other through your minds, through the rays. And there's also this really cool thing called council sickness, which is when the council gets physically sick when they're apart for too long, which I just thought was really interesting and showed the importance of those family bonds and those friendships that are really important. But anyways, Tari Sai gets chosen for her her area or her region to be a part of Dio's council. So you have a couple other main characters. Kira is the name of one of her friends, which is super fun because my name is usually not in books anywhere, so that was really fun. And she's a healer with songs, I believe. She's really sweet. And then the other main character is Sanjit, who is this physically big person, but he's just a soft teddy bear, and Tari Sai ends up kind of falling for him. But there's kind of a love triangle in a way with Dio the prince and Tari Sai and Sanjit. There's kind of some expectations put on certain people in there. Anyways, I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this book, but basically Tari Sai is supposed to kill the prince, but then gets chosen for the prince's council, and so there's a lot of tension that happens because of that. Again, I don't remember a lot of this book, but I remember very much enjoying it. The world is very intricate, and there's 12 different regions within the world, and there's a way to travel between the different regions that was really weird and interesting. So we went to a lot of them and described a bunch of them, so I remember getting them confused very easily. And there's a lot to do with like souls and something about like the underworld or like their version of the underworld. Again, it's a very complex like world, so I quite enjoyed it. It kind of reminded me of the way that I felt when I first read The City of Brass, just because that, again, very complex world and lots of different beings within that world, so be ready for like that complexity. But the writing was so good, and it ended on kind of a cliffhanger, so I'm like, I really want the next book to come out. So I definitely will need to reread the first book before I read the second book, but overall, I quite enjoyed Raybearer. And then the other book that I read this past few months is my favorite, A Sky Beyond the Storm by Sabaa Tahir. This is the final book in the Amber Quartet, and actually, funny story, I got a message saying that I had a package to pick up, and I was like, I'm not expecting anything. Like, this is confusing. It was like the early November. I think it was like November 10th or something. So like close to the middle of November. So I go to pick up, and it's a package from Penguin Random House, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. And I open it, and it's A Sky Beyond the Storm. They had some sort of mistake and accidentally sent the book out like a few weeks early. So all they did was they just sent me an email and like asked me not to say anything until the book had actually come out. I was like, okay. So I got to read this book like a few weeks before it came out, which was such a blessing because my life, like, this semester has been not the best, honestly. It was really, really tough having so many English classes and nowhere to go. So reading A Sky Beyond the Storm was so much fun. I read it within like 4 days because I procrastinated a lot of my homework to finish reading it. But it was everything I could have wanted in a book. There was one new element that they had brought in, that Sabaa Tahir had like brought into this, that I was kind of I was concerned about how she was going to tie it all together and how like everything was going to happen, but it all worked out perfectly. I loved Laya's character in this book. I mean, this book really showcased her growth from thinking about in Ember and who she is as a person, and like her strength and her courage and her bravery has just grown, and her like self-confidence too has just grown so much through the books. And so like this book really put it on display, like just how brave and strong and courageous and just like amazing of a person she is. It was so much fun to see her throughout the book as different things happened to her. Elias, my baby, I was so worried because of the end of Reaper about what was going to happen with him. I quite enjoyed his story throughout this one too. I'm trying to think of what I can say without giving away spoilers, but it was satisfying. I guess I'll say that. His story was very satisfying. And it was fun to see. I mean, even throughout in Reaper, you get this too, that battle between like his human side and now the magic. And so at the end of Reaper, you see him like give over completely to the magic, but it's not all as it seems. So that was really cool. I think this book as well, like demonstrating Laya's growth, but I think it also demonstrated Helene's growth. I think this was my favorite book for Helene. You guys know, if you've watched any of my videos, I don't really like Helene. She really annoys me, especially in Torch and Reaper, because she just constantly underestimates the Commandant and overestimates her own strength and like battle prowess and strategy, more so strategy. But like this one, like because of the events that happened in Reaper where she like was completely broken down, I feel like this book allowed her to build herself back up into a better person. She's still not like one of my favorite characters by any means, but I did appreciate her a lot more in this book. And her storyline is very tragic, just like overall because of everything that's happened. I mean, all of them are tragic, let's be real, but like her storyline, especially with her family, has been like really tragic throughout. So it was interesting like seeing it through to the end. and I appreciated the ending of her story as well. There was, Sabo knew that we were going to cry at some of the deaths, and there was a few that made me cry. I definitely cried at the end of the book, just like having that realization that like this series is over. But at the same time, like, I'm excited for more graphic novel prequels to come out. I know she's doing at least one more, maybe two, hopefully two. So it was really fun. Actually, there was one quick shout out to the graphic novel, what is it called? A Thief Among the Trees, I think it's called. There was a quick shout out. Not anything that, like, if you haven't read the graphic novel, you won't understand. It's not a huge deal, but there was, like, a quick shout out where it was like, oh, I know that story that goes along with that shout out. So that was kind of fun to see as well. It was just beautiful. The Nightbringer, like, his story is so interesting, and I'm excited to like go back and reread through, especially Reaper, and because in Sky you get even more of that story and more explanation of his mindset, and I know you started to get that in Reaper, so it would be interesting to just reread, even just rereading like Reaper and Sky together, like, and seeing that and like completely like fully understanding him as a character. It was really interesting. So I'm trying to think what else I can say without spoiling anything. It was just a fantastic ending all around. I really, really loved it. I'm so glad that I have the final books and I have the completed series. I don't have it physically with me because my friend is borrowing my copy so she can read it. Oh, there was a lot more romance in this book to make up for the fact that there was very little in Reaper, which I highly appreciated because I needed that in my life. So that was really nice to see too. And like, I mean, it made sense for the characters as well. I feel like, especially with the stuff that happens in Reaper, to then continue that into Sky. Also, this book picks up, I think, a few months after Reaper, which is kind of sad because the one thing that I missed from this book was I wanted almost like a training montage of Laia and Helene like training together and becoming not necessarily friends, but like becoming allies more so. And then we kind of skipped that in between the books, so I was like kind of sad about that. But that was really the only thing I can think of. So yeah, those are the two books that I have finished in the last few months. Two more things to talk about. One of them I will make an upcoming video for, but I got an exciting job, so I will be explaining that in a video hopefully soon, maybe after the holidays, I don't really know. So that is coming your way. And then also, if you haven't seen my obsession yet, please go watch Julie the Phantoms. I'm gonna plug it again because I can't not. It's a really fun Netflix show. It's only 9 episodes, and the whole show is only like 4.5 hours of content. So I need more. Please, Netflix, give me a season 2. We still haven't heard yet. But it's a really cute show about a girl who ends up finding a ghost band in her garage and ends up joining said ghost band. And the first few episodes are a lot more like cheesy and funny, and then the second half of the season you get into like the way more emotional stuff, which you're not expecting when you're first watching it. But it's a super fun show. All the actors in it are incredible, and the music is jam. There's no bad songs from the soundtrack, so please go watch it. It's on Netflix. Come scream about it with me if you want to. I am always down to talk about it. So yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to follow me on social media, all my links will be in the description as always. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!